All right, everyone, we are live. We're here. We're ready to go. And we have some breaking news here today. Right before I get on, I was going to go live a couple minutes earlier, but then some news broke. And a former All-Pro linebacker was recently released. The Indianapolis Colts released linebacker Shaq Leonard after paying him and giving him a massive contract. They release him not even a full season later. So this is pretty big news, to say the least. You know, where is he going to go? Is anyone going to want to sign him? Coming off of two hopefully this is the right one. Yep. Coming off of two back surgeries, I was asking myself, is Shaq the next Andrew Luck? I was just talking about Andrew Luck the other day, and, the way the Bengals are taking care of Joe Burrow over there in Cincinnati. It seems like they don't, they're kind of making the same mistake the Colts did, but this is a little different. It's kind of injury caused, because before the two back surgeries, Shaq was on his way to being an all-time linebacker. He was on his way to being a great linebacker, an all-time great. In the first couple of years, he was up there with, he was a leader. He was damn near close if he wasn't in tackles. He was a wrecking machine. Former offensive coordinators had to kind of scheme their game and their offensive plan around him. But, he suffers a back issue. He plays in the Denver game last year a little bit. Then he's put on IR and, he's done for the year, and that's it for Shaq. Because he had to have the second back surgery. That's pretty concerning when you put your superstar back out there. I mean, I guess you thought he was about ready, but you put your former All-Pro, one of your cornerstones of your team, out there, and then not even, a couple weeks later, he gets a second back surgery. So that tells me he had to re-injure it. That tells me that something wasn't right. Obviously, having the second back surgery, something wasn't right. And, he was a premier defender in this league. He was very good. He was good in pass coverage. He was good at blitzing. He liked blitzing. He was pretty good at it too. He was a good blitzer. He was like a generational linebacker for us. And now for him to be released not long after signing a huge deal is very I do want to say the cutting part is surprising. But if you look at his play and how much he's been playing, I don't want to say it's not a surprise. But for him not playing much, for him losing the amount of playing time that he did, considering how much money he was being paid, it's interesting. It's not that it's not surprising. It's that, something was expected to happen sooner or later. I'm not sure if we really expected it to happen this way. I think that's the way I'm looking for to put it. But, yeah, I mean, it's not really a big loss. You're saving money over the next couple of years. You're letting these younger guys play who have been phenomenal. EJ Speed has been great. Zaire Franklin is a little older. He's a vet, but he's been very good. It just stinks. It really does, because it's another one of those situations where you look at him and you look at the start of his career and it's like, wow, he was freaking good. Wow, he was impressive. He was on his way to being an all-time great. Unfortunately, it's not looking like that now. Let's make that a little smaller. And it sucks in a way. But there's also something else to take away from this that I really like. So, Shane Steichen, since he's been here, he has preached accountability and he has shown it. This is something Frank Reich didn't have. Never had it, never showed it. He just wasn't really a good head coach here, as we all know. Especially down the stretch, he was even worse. Feels like he lost his confidence, just wasn't there. All right, let's not dabble into the past too much. But Shane Steichen so far this year, he we did cut Deion Jackson after a couple of bad performances. He benched Darrell Baker after having a bad performance, and now you cut Shaq Leonard, one of the premier defenders prior to his back injury and whatever was going on with him. So, what's next? I think it's really just to keep on going. I think it's obviously that's the only choice. Matt Canada gone. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I mean, this is great for the locker room. This is great for the team. This is great for the future because Shane Steichen is telling this entire team, this locker room is going to get the message that no one is safe. If you're going to play bad, if you're not going to play good, you're going to be on a very short leash. Shane Steichen doesn't care. If you're not going to play good, you're going to be hitting the road. I think that's a great culture and a great way to establish your locker room, that no one's safe and everyone needs to perform and everyone has a high standard, a high expectations. And Shane Steichen isn't just saying it like Frank Reich did. Shane Steichen is showing it. And that's a whole different ballgame when you say something and when you show something. As we always say, actions speak louder than words. Like I said, it sucks because he was such a big part of the Colts, not just on the field but off the field. He got this team fired up a lot. He's great in the locker room. He was great not just for the football team on the field, but like I said, he was great in the locker room. He was great for the city. He was great for the organization. He had much more of an impact beyond the football field. And I feel like that's going to be felt. But at the same time, you also have to remind yourself that the NFL, you could put all of your feelings and emotions into something. But at the end of the day, the NFL is a business, and a business is about money. It's about getting better, and it's about improving. And if you're not improving, Shane Steichen just established you're going to be gone. If you're playing bad, if you're not getting playing time because you're not playing well and you're going to talk out about it and all this stuff. I mean, Shaq didn't really talk out about it. He was classy. He wasn't disrespectful. But he was very adamant. He was very vocal about him not having the playing time that he thinks he deserves. Now, when he was on the field, he really wasn't looking that great. He really didn't look great. Let's be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This year he's been horrible. I'm going to give you the truth and what I see. Shaq Leonard didn't look good this year. He had a couple of bright moments where you're like, oh, okay, Shaq is here. Is he finally taking that step back? That step forward from his injury, the step in the right direction. That he did not. And according to Shane Steichen, it wasn't enough, and it's time to get rid of him. But you look at this linebacker room, you have some guys in this room that can perform. Zaire Franklin, he's been awesome. He's been great. I think he leads the league in tackles. If not, he's up there. I know he was leading the league prior to the bye week. Considering he had the bye week, maybe other players had got a couple more tackles and they caught up to him. I'm not really sure exactly what the counters are and the stats are and the leading tacklers in the league, but it's, I don't know. It just is what it is. You got to move on, and that's the NFL. It's a business, man. No one cares. People want to get better, and you need a great head coach, and you need a great culture and locker room to get better. Shane Steichen is very adamant, very vocal. He's not scared. And, if, let's just say that Ballard isn't brought back after this year, which I think he should be, I hope whoever the next GM is, I mean, I highly doubt Chris Ballard is going to be gone, but whoever the next GM is, I hope they don't get rid of Shane Steichen. I absolutely love Shane Steichen. Without Shane Steichen, if we had Frank Reich or any other coach, or any other first-year coach this year, look at all the first-year coaches. Well, Frank Reich, you can't really call a first-year head coach, but, he's in a new place. But we already know that Frank Reich trained. We already know how that goes down. You think the Bears will sign him? That is an interesting destination. But I think the Bears are putting too much money into our linebackers currently. They paid a lot of money to Tremaine Edmonds. They're paying a bit of money to TJ Edwards. I I get it. Matt Eberflus is there. It's the same system. It's the same type of scheme when Shaq Leonard absolutely thrived. And maybe that's it. Maybe if Leonard gets back into this scheme that he was... Well, no, I think Tremaine Edwards went down with the season-ending injury, didn't he? Tremaine Edwards injury. I thought he did. Maybe he did. Maybe not. It's a knee, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I'm not going to continue to dive into it because I don't want to ruin the flow of the live show. But where was I going? Yeah, going to the Bears. That's an interesting destination. That's an interesting place for him because the former defensive coordinator of the Colts, Matt Eberflus. That's where he is. He's the head coach. So is he going to be aggressive and go get another linebacker and go and get the guy that was a rock in the middle of his defense in Indianapolis? I think whoever signs him is going to owe him like just over $6 million they have to pay him. That's not a ton of money. And I guess, if you want to bring him in and take the chance, $6 million isn't that bad, especially if, he returns to some kind of a form he was before the back injuries. And I'll never forget how much the Colts downplayed this back injury. I'll never forget it. They downplayed this injury like crazy. They're like, he's going to get the surgery and he should be back in the middle of training camp, end of training camp. Nothing guaranteed, but that's kind of like the general timeline they gave him when he had the first back surgery. It was like a month and a half, 2 months before the training camp. I'm like, something doesn't sound right. There's no way after having a back surgery that a player's going to be back in 2 months, a month and a half. There's no way. Back, neck, anything to deal with a spinal cord back there, they're serious. It doesn't matter how minor the surgery is. It doesn't matter how minor the procedure is or the injury is. When you have a back issue, it's major. And we've seen Quentin Nelson pop up on the injury report with some back issues. I hope Quentin Nelson doesn't go down that road. There's nothing funny about it. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's not really a laugh of funny or of good humor. It's kind of a laugh of being scared, just like pointing to something that has happened and that has transpired, and will it transpire into something worse? Well, Quentin Nelson and his back issues, because he's popped up on the injury report once in a while. I don't think he has this year so far, but previously he has. We'll see. We will see where he goes. If he goes to the Bears, I feel like the Bears are definitely one of the leading spots for him. Just because Matt Eberflus is there, and the scheme that he played his best football in is over in Chicago, and it's not really far from Indianapolis either. I don't know. I'm not sure if anyone will sign him this season, because everyone's going to be looking at those 2 back surgeries, and they're going to be like, yeah, what was that? Is he ever going to come back from that? There's times where players, it doesn't matter how good, the medical stuff is right now. It's very impressive, and it's advancing so fast. But right now, when your back is as bad as it is, when I guess, you when you have 2 back surgeries, it's when you have one, it's concerning. And then when you play a little bit of one game, you don't come back that game, and you have a surgery 2 weeks later, that's like 10x the worries. That's like 10x the, whatever the issue was before. It has to be that much more worse to have to go ahead and that quick and decide that it needs surgery again. It is what it is. Shaq released. Just signed Ronnie Harrison Jr., a linebacker. I thought he was a safety. But it wouldn't make sense if he was a linebacker. But maybe the Colts want more depth in the safety room. Maybe they already see that they have, and they know that they have some good linebackers. EJ Speed, Zaire Franklin, that Ogunjibi guy that I think he's a rookie. I guess he's looked good. I think he had a pick in the Panthers game. He had a pretty good game. So the Colts are just looking at these younger guys. Well, not all of them are younger. Like Zaire Franklin's a little older. EJ Speed has been in the league for a couple of years. But typically you're paying these guys much less money. And they're playing much better than Shaq. So I think this was the right decision. I'm not going to tell you and say that I'm not surprised. I am surprised. I'm just surprised on the way that it turned out, on the way that it played out. But it is what it is. It's the NFL. It's a business, and it's if you're not playing up to your standards, if you have a coach that's gonna instill some accountability into the locker room, I think this is a great way to do it. I think it's a great way to do it because it's everyone else in the locker room. They're gonna look at this and be like, "Damn, he's serious. Damn, he ain't playing around." The accountability is in the air, and I think this is a very important step in Shane Steichen's career in a way. Because, like I said many times, he showed that he's not scared. He is not scared to give rid of anyone who's not playing up to their standards, up to how much they're getting paid. He's not scared to keep anyone accountable. It doesn't matter who he is. I wonder how Chris Ballard feels about this. Really wonder how he feels about it. Deep down inside. I know if he comes out on a press conference, he's going to say stuff like, it felt like it was the right decision, and, you guys know we love Shaq. I feel like he'll say something very similar to that and, continue it a little more, but deep down, I really wonder what Chris Ballard is feeling, because he doesn't like to make this kind of change. He doesn't like to cut this kind of player that has that much of an impact on the locker room. I really am wondering what Chris Ballard thinks deep down inside. But, all right, let's move on. Because we do have a lot of stuff to go through. What's this? Okay, the Monday night football recap. Time to get into the rest of the live. I know I could talk Colts all day. We love our Colts, but gotta move on. All right, so game from last night. I'll tell you, it was a good game. I truly enjoyed this game. I thought it was a very good game. Really enjoyed it. The Chiefs looked okay. The Eagles looked pretty good. And in that first half there, the Chiefs were playing the Eagles game. The Chiefs were doing what the Eagles like to do. It was kind of vice versa. The roles were completely flopped. The Eagles were struggling to run the football in the first half. They weren't really playing their football. They were struggling to get after Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs were doing everything that the Eagles did so well. They were protecting their quarterback. They were getting after Hurts. They did get after Hurts all night long. The Chiefs defense line, they have dogs. I know, I love saying that. I know Pat McAfee says it, but I love saying that. So, what was I saying though? Oh yeah, the defensive line for the Chiefs, they were getting after all night long. And I'll tell you, I was impressed with Jalen Hurts down the stretch in that game. He did what he had to do to win the game, although they were running the ball really well, but Hurts did make some really nice throws. I thought Hurts had one of his better games of the season. I do think he struggled a little bit in the first half, quite a bit. I do think he did have some points in this game where he made some bad throws and he was struggling. But I will say this is one of the more impressive performances I've seen from Jalen Hurts this year so far. And I know the stat line doesn't really show it. He's 14 to 22, 150 yards, one interception doesn't really show it. But I thought that Jalen Hurts looked better this game. I thought this was one of the more impressive games from Jalen Hurts, really. Then you move on to, the Chiefs defense line did a very good job stopping the run and such in the first half. Second half, the game kind of went the way that I thought it kind of could go. If the Eagles were going to get the run game going, they shut out the Chiefs in the second half. This Eagles defense finally get it figured out in the second half? I'll say yes and no, and I'll tell you why. So we all know Mahomes, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He performed phenomenally. He was great. He was amazing. The issue with the Chiefs are the weapons, and I think we can all agree that outside of Travis Kelce, they don't have that one guy that steps up and consistently can make a play. And I know if I ask you guys, do you guys see that guy other than Travis Kelce that Mahomes can rely on third down, on fourth down, or just in a big moment in general? No, I don't think that one guy is there that he can trust. I mean, Justin Watson had a couple nice catches. He was a leading receiver, 5 receptions, 53 yards on a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, he ran the ball great. I thought he ran the ball very well. He runs so hard. I don't think there's another running back that runs the way Pacheco does. He runs angry. And I love watching him play. I love watching Isaiah Pacheco. I love watching this, Patrick Mahomes and Pacheco. But I'm also kind of asking myself, are the Chiefs not trying to show everything? Are they trying to keep a lot of things in secret until the playoffs? But one thing I will tell you is there's no secret is there's really not that one guy. MVS, Valdez-Scantling. He could have caught that pass. He could have won the game. And you saw after the game him smashing his helmet on the side of the walls heading into the locker room. He was mad. It looked like he was legit crying. He was sobbing. And you know what? I'm not going to defend him. I don't care. At the end of the day, you could have caught that pass. And, it may sound harsh to talk like that, but at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, the NFL is a business. And that is how you need to attack it when talking about it. That's how you need to attack it when studying it. You cannot involve any emotions. Now, I get it. It's emotional for the players. I understand it. They work very hard. And MVS is a very talented player. He's big. He's fast. But that was unacceptable. That was unacceptable. I would be upset after dropping that. I absolutely would be. Would I be crying? I mean, maybe. I don't know. Probably not. No. But you have to catch that. I mean, wide open, in your hands. Mahomes put it in the breadbasket. Perfect throw. And he couldn't do it. He couldn't catch it. If you can't catch that to win the football game, I don't think you should be given that opportunity anymore. Until you can prove that you can consistently catch the ball and such again. No, I don't, because I needed the Eagles to defend Kelsey. Fantasy LOL. But, yeah, there's nothing really else other than Travis Kelce to make the big play. I'd say even Justin Watson dropped that pass on that fourth down. It was in his hands. I get it. It's a tough catch to make, and I'm not saying that I would definitely go out there and make that catch. I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm not going to say that I would have made that catch. I probably would not have. There's a reason why I'm here and I have a podcast. I love talking about football. And I'm good at it, and I'm great at talking about football. I love studying it. But there's a reason why I'm sitting here in this chair and not playing football. But as someone that studies the game, as someone that is going to be completely honest and tell you how it is, that's a catch that has to be made. If it's in your hands, you have to come down with it. And I get it. A lot of people are looking at that and saying, oh, you hit him early. I don't care. How about the touchdown drop? How about the touchdown that was dropped by MVS? Was there a penalty there? No, they didn't even touch him. So, and don't forget, you were up 10 points at halftime. You were shut out in the second half. Mahomes threw an interception the first drive, I think it was. I think it was the first or second drive they had. So you can't blame it on one little issue there, and there was intentional grounding there. That caused a 4th and 25. So there's more things that lead to the loss and a play that, if it has to come down to that one play on 4th and 25, then you have more of an issue than just that play. Than the refs, if that's what you're going to blame that on. It is not the refs' fault. It is the Chiefs' fault. It was a very good game, though. I really enjoyed this game. I like these low-scoring games, and let me tell you why. The high-scoring games are fun and all. Touchdown for touchdown. They're going up and down the field. It's awesome. It's fun to watch. It is. But you're not getting any suspense. When you have a lower-scoring game like this, like we had, when there is a 20-yard run, a 20-yard pass, when there is a 20-plus yard play, it feels like it's 40 yards. It has that much more impact because you have that suspense building up. Especially, I will say this. Unless you have two really good teams playing football, and you can tell they're playing clean football, you can tell they're playing good ball, the low-scoring games are absolutely the best because, but if you're watching two bad teams play, it's just like aggravating to watch them play. It is, in a way. Because they make a lot of darn stupid little mistakes. But when you watch two really good football teams in a low-scoring game like this, two really good offenses, two really good defenses, I don't think there's anything that beats it. This was the best game over the weekend. Best game. You could say that the Bears and the Lions game was good, but I think this is the best game because of what I just talked about. Low-scoring games, when you have a big play, it's more meaningful. All that suspense is released. All that energy from that suspense is released. That's why I like the low-scoring games more. I think they're more entertaining. I think they're more suspenseful. Now, overall, maybe the higher-scoring games are more entertaining, but they're not as suspenseful. They're not as, 20-yard pass. You're like, okay, 20-yard pass. Let's keep it going. Let's get another one. Exactly my point right there. Low-scoring game, a 20-yard pass is like a 40 or 50-yard play. But, hey, Eagles get a good one here. Good comeback. It was kind of like a deja vu of the Super Bowl. Just the Chiefs feeling what the Eagles felt. The Chiefs had a 2-score lead. They blew it. And the Eagles took the Chiefs' role from what transpired in the Super Bowl. But good game for the Eagles. Although, I'll say the Chiefs did a very good job in the passing game. They allowed Devontae Smith 6 receptions, 99 yards. That's, that's a good game. That's you don't really want to allow, that many receiving yards at all. You don't want to allow any at all. But A.J. Brown had like 1 reception for 8 yards, I think. Julio had 1 reception for 6 or something. That Chiefs defense is a beast. They're great. They're awesome, but they got worn out in the second half. They got worn out. And the Eagles showed them how to play the game that the Chiefs are trying to do against them. And I did really like what Steve Spagnuolo was doing against the Eagles, though. He was blitzing a ton, as he does. He's very aggressive, and keeping Jalen Hurts in the pocket. Now, Jalen Hurts is 6'1", so he's taller. He's definitely not the tallest. It's still tough to see over those linemen a little bit. So when you're blitzing, when you're keeping him in the pocket and he's under pressure, that's your best shot against Jalen Hurts, is to pressure him, to blitz him a lot. And, as we saw, one of the plays, A.J. Brown was wide open over the top. He beat L'Jarius Sneed so bad off the release, off the press. If Hurts just put it over the top, it would have been a big touchdown. It would have been a big, long play. It would have been a touchdown. But the blitz pressured Hurts, forced him not to be able to see it well, and he kind of just, a lot of people thought it was just a miscommunication. It was more so just the pressure getting to Hurts. It was a Steve Spagnuolo defense. He was a genius. He did a very good job for the most part. But, really good game yesterday. I really enjoyed it. I hope we get more games like this down the stretch, because a lot of the games in the NFL have been one score so far. A lot of them have just been a one-score game. All right, I don't know which one I have here. Okay, here are our takeaways. We're going to start with our takeaways. All right, here's our first takeaway. Oh. I just spoiled it. But, I said I would talk about it later in the stream anyways, so come on now. All right, so the Lions defense, it's a cause for concern. In the last 3 games, they allowed the 7th most points. Aaron Glenn had this defense playing really well for the majority of the season. They did allow 24 points to the Panthers. They did allow 37 to the Seahawks. So, and then down the stretch here, they allowed 38 to the Chargers. And Justin Fields killed them on the ground. Very fortunate to win that football game, really. But that's what a good football team does. A great football team finds a way to put the rest of the game behind their backs and do what they have to do to win. And the Lions did it. The Lions did that, and that's a sign of a very good football team. And as we all know, they are. They're 8-2? They're one of the best football teams in the NFL, as we know. But their defense has been a cause for concern the last couple of games. It has not performed well. It has struggled. And that's going to need to improve down the stretch here. It's going to need to improve when they're going into playoffs if they want to make a good run. If they want to make it to the Super Bowl, which a lot of people think they could, which they absolutely could, but they need to get that defense figured out. They've been struggling against the run. And that was supposed to be their strength coming into this game, and it was. It's been their strength throughout the season so far. It has been a cause for concern the last 3 games. The run defense has not been good. The pass defense has struggled for majority of the season. Now, they did a very good job against the Bucs, the Falcons, and the Raiders offense. But, I think we could all agree those 3 offenses are not very impressive. They're not very good. And this was even when Josh McDaniels was still the head coach of the Raiders. I think that was the game that got McDaniels fired. But the defense is a cause for concern 100% of the way. I mean, the Chargers scoring 38 points, fine. You have Justin Herbert, you have some good weapons, and they're a very good football team. Offensively, they have Austin Eckler, but they ran the ball really well on the Lions. When the Ravens played them, the Ravens smoked the Lions. So, and the Ravens ran all over them. Well, yeah, you have Lamar Jackson, you have a slew of running backs back there that are amazing. Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. You have some really talented backs in the backfield, and of course, Lamar Jackson to put a cherry on top of that backfield. The defense is a big cause for concern. Like I said, they allowed 24 points to the Panthers, 37 to the Seahawks. Now, that was in the beginning of the year, which everything's not really where it will be towards the end. It's not really how the rest of the season will go. So you can't really take too much away from the beginning of the year, but there's still something there. Because the problem is resurfacing now. They did good against the Chiefs, but, I mean, as we've seen throughout the entire year so far, they were actually fortunate to win that football game versus the Chiefs, but they did, and that's really what kickstarted everything. And you can't take that away from them. It was a phenomenal win, and the Chiefs made mistakes, and the Lions fought hard, and they won. The Lions won for a reason. But don't forget, the Chiefs didn't have Chris Jones. They didn't have Travis Kelce. But you still were playing Patrick Mahomes. You still can't take that away from them. The Chiefs still have one of the better offense lines in the NFL. They can run the ball really well with Isaiah Pacheco. And they did a good job in Week 1 versus the Chiefs. But this defense is going to have to improve down the stretch here if this Lions team wants to make a run. If they want to make that deep playoff run that they're expected to do. They need to get that defense figured out. Aaron Glenn needs to get this defense back to playing what they were a couple weeks ago. Because they've been struggling. The last 3 games, like I said, like you see here, they have allowed the 7th most points in the last 3 games. So, a little bit of cause for concern for the Lions defense there. That's a big takeaway I have from Week 11. The next one, for Steelers. Not really a takeaway, but I felt like it was very important to address because it just happened this morning. Matt Canada finally fired this morning. And so far this season, the Steelers were 28th in points per game. Every time you watch a Steelers game, it's they start the game with a run up the middle. They run up the middle all day long. And, they're very predictable. And Kenny Pickett has not played good. But, you could blame it on the OC a little bit for not expanding the playbook and letting Kenny Pickett rip it and letting Kenny Pickett play his game. But how could you let Kenny Pickett play his game if he can't do the simple things right? His accuracy has been inconsistent. His footwork has been pretty bad. He has turned the ball over a bit. No, you know what? He actually hasn't turned the ball over too much. Was he thrown 4 interceptions? I think he's only fumbled 1 so far this year, so that's impressive. But Kenny Pickett just doesn't seem like he processes the field well. I think he's a poor man's version of Josh Allen. A very, very, very poor man's version of Josh Allen. Kenny Pickett is better outside of structure. I don't think Pickett is as good when, you keep him in structure. You want him to, make plays on the run. You want to get him on the pocket. He's kind of like a Josh Allen in a way, I think. I think he's much better outside of structure. I think he's much better improvising. I could be very wrong, but that's just what I see watching him play these last, this year so far and last year. It seems like he's much better when you just let Kenny Pickett do what Kenny Pickett wants to do in a way. I mean, you don't want him to do too much because, he still has to prove a lot. But Matt Canada finally being fired is a sigh of relief in a way. I mean, for a while I've said I wasn't sure if it was 100% Matt Canada, but at the same time, play calling was really stale. You ran the ball up the middle every play. Why would you run with Najee Harris more times than Jalen Warren when Jalen Warren was killing it. He was so much more explosive than Najee Harris. So you need to continue playing him, just like we talked about earlier in this stream with Shane Steichen having accountability. The Steelers need to do the same thing, and with the Colts having accountability with Shaq Leonard releasing a few players in the beginning of the year as well, sitting players, doesn't care. That was kind of like another concern here with Matt Canada. Like, he kept playing Najee Harris. Like, play Jalen Warren more. You see what happens when you played him more. You can't really care about the draft pick, where he was drafted. I know it sucks. Absolutely, it stings a little more when they're a higher draft pick or you're paying them big money. But if they're not getting the job done, they're not getting the job done. Like I said, the NFL is a business. You have to continue to improve, to evaluate, and you have to change it if it's not working. And the Steelers finally have fired Matt Canada. Who's going to step up? I think they will probably bring up someone in-house. They're not going to be going looking for someone else in the middle of the season. So, good stuff for the Steelers. I'm happy to see they finally fired him, so you can really see if it has been Kenny Pickett or not. But I'll also say it's, one thing I'll give Matt Canada is it is difficult to, open up the playbook to Kenny Pickett when he hasn't shown he's been able to do much as it is. But, maybe if you open up the playbook to him, maybe, he's been in the system for a year and a half. Maybe you kind of let Kenny Pickett be the boss and take the reins a little bit. I think Kenny Pickett can play his best ball that way. So, we'll see. And it seems like the Steelers' offensive line, the run game has been awesome. It's been great. It's the running game has been getting going. And like I said, versus the Browns, one of the things that you can do against the Browns, against that defense, is run the football. They have one of the best passing defenses in football. Kenny Pickett, he experienced that, as everyone does, as Brock Purdy did. Brock Purdy struggled against him a little bit, but Brock Purdy still did a pretty darn good game. He still found a way to get the Niners in the game-winning position, but couldn't finish it. But good to see Matt Canada finally fired. Let's see what Kenny Pickett could do now, having a new OC. Guaranteed this offense will explode next week. It seems like whenever an OC is fired or a head coach is fired, that that team or that side of the football finds a way to have the best game they've had all season long. Now let's take a peek at who the Steelers are playing really quick to get an idea. They're playing the Bengals. They have a really good passing defense as well, but Joe Burrow's out, so maybe the defense can, keep the Bengals offense off the field and then get the Bengals defense tired just running and then hopefully getting the pass game going a little bit. We'll see. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have too much of a problem, but I mean, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson haven't really had too much of a problem with many teams, have they now? Now, they did lose their Browns. That's interesting, but it is what it is. You move on. All right, next takeaways. How is Brandon Staley still employed? Please, someone explain to me why Brandon Staley is still the head coach for the Chargers. It doesn't make any sense. It's horrible. Just fire him already. Get rid of him. You look at Justin Herbert, he's the lone reason why Brandon Staley is still there. If Justin Herbert wasn't quarterback of the Chargers, if he wasn't their quarterback, Brandon Staley would have been gone a year ago. He would have been gone last year. And one of the biggest reasons why Staley needs to be gone is just, the lack of execution, the lack of accountability, the lack of discipline, which, goes hand in hand with accountability. And then you have, he's supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach, but the Chargers' defense has been horrible. Their passing defense, one of the worst in the league. Their run defense has been better this year, but not last week. It hasn't, a game that you should absolutely win, regardless of their record. I understand that the Chargers, they didn't have a great record. They didn't have a good, and they don't have one now. I understand that. But the Chargers are good. You have such a good football, not team, quarterback. You have such a good quarterback. Top 5, one of the best in the NFL. And he can. And Brandon Staley can't do anything with it. They couldn't build anything around him. And like I said, Staley defensive-minded guy, yet the defense is one of the worst in the league. Chargers never fired head coaches during the season. Yeah, they probably won't. But Justin Herbert is going through the same crap that Phillip Rivers went through. And I think I talked about this in the past on a live. Went through the same freaking crap that he went through. And it's a unstable organization, crappy head coaches. They never actually build a football team around the quarterback. They just say, hey, take him for granted. He's going to get it all done. And now it's even more difficult to do anything because his rookie contract is wasted. Now he's going to be being paid $55 million a year. I don't remember exactly how much he's being paid per year, but it's a lot. $55 million. I would say it probably is $55 million. I think he is the highest paid right now. And rightfully so, he has dragged this Chargers team to mediocrity over the past 3 years. And it's not going to change unless you put something around him. It's not going to change unless you get him a new head coach. Brandon Staley sucks as a head coach. Great defensive coordinator, but he sucks as a head coach. What's up, Jags fan? I appreciate you stopping by. I'm just in the middle of a rant, man. I appreciate you stopping by. How you doing? How's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing? I should have asked that a little while ago. But it's just so disappointing to see the Chargers wasting another great quarterback who will probably go down as an all-time great but have nothing to show for it. And you could kind of blame the quarterback a little bit because he's a leader, he's a catalyst, he's got to be the reason why the team's playing great. But at the same time, Justin Herbert can't go out there and catch the football for Quentin Johnston. He can't go out there and block for himself. He can't coach. He can't play defense. He can play quarterback, which can elevate your team to a much better team than what they would be without him. But the Chargers are taking Herbert for granted big time. It hurts. Because Herbert is a quarterback that can take you to the promised land. He's a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl. But when you don't put anything around him, he has Keenan Allen. I thought Josh Palmer or Trey Palmer. I always get the Palmers mixed up with the Buccaneers and the Chargers. But whatever Palmer it is, I think he's a decent receiver. But when you go back and look at this entire team, little mistakes here and there all game long, and you lose to a Packers team that you should never lose to. The Packers have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. Let's see how the Chargers did. Let's see how the Chargers did running the football versus one of the worst run defenses. Maybe they ran the ball well. I don't remember. Let's see. The Chargers, 150 rushing yards. Okay. 244 passing yards. 394 yards. So they're very similar in that aspect. But they had 50 more rushing yards than the Packers. 50 more. They ran for 150 yards. And you barely gave the ball. Look at this. Austin Eckler, 10 attempts, 64 yards, 6.4 yards per carry. Why not let him run the ball more? Justin Herbert, 8 carries for 73 yards, 9.1 yards per carry. Why don't you continue to run the football? Packers have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. And you don't run the darn football. Like you should. It's pathetic. And then you have the big drop from Quentin Johnston. I think Quentin Johnston is a bust ready, to be honest with you. I mean, like, if you just watch him play, if you just rewatch the games, he's getting pushed around. It's like he's not even, what is he? He's a big receiver, and he gets pushed around. Let's see. And, coming out of college, he was raw. He didn't run a lot of different routes at TCU. He didn't, let's see. It's not showing here. Quentin Johnston height. He's 6'4", 216 pounds, and he gets pushed around. I just don't know if he has the NFL in him. I don't know. It hasn't seemed like that. It hasn't seemed like that he has it in him. And I don't know. When you're looking this bad at the beginning of your career, I don't know if it could change. I mean, we'll get him off season. Like I said, he was raw. So maybe, do a lot of training, he'll work hard, and he'll come back second year and just pop off. But the way he's looking this year, it doesn't look like he will. Oh, man. It pains me to see what the Chargers are doing to Herbert. It pains me. All right. Another takeaway from Week 11. Courtland Sutton is a dog. I mean, I love saying that the way Pat McAfee says it. Pat McAfee. I just can't say his name right. Pat McAfee. I always screw up his name. Always. Courtland Sutton is a dog. 2 game-winning touchdown receptions 2 weeks in a row. And to be honest with you, I've always known that Courtland Sutton was a dog. Always knew that he's great. He just struggled with injuries and, struggled to stay in the field. Quarterback play was horrible. And you could argue that, a good receiver will make a bad quarterback look good. Which typically they do. Look at Hopkins for all the years he played with crappy quarterbacks. Yeah, he's one of the better receivers we've seen play the game. But Courtland Sutton, man, even before all these injuries, I think I think a lot of people forget how good he is. Going up and making a big time contested catch to win the game like he did on Sunday Night Football. Sutton's a dog, and you could see that Russell Wilson trusts in him. These players have something to buy into in Sean Payton. Now, I don't think Sean Payton's a great head coach. He seems like a very good head coach. I do think he's a bit overrated, especially if you count, comparing to some other coaches. I think Drew Brees truly made Sean Payton in a lot of ways. But you can see the way he's turned around this Broncos team. He's got this Broncos team playing at a very high level. It seems like him and Russell Wilson are clicking. Russell Wilson's buying into the system. He's buying into it, and that helps in terms that helps Courtland Sutton be him and play like he could so much because Russell Wilson has the confidence to go to him in big time moments, and he has been, and he has answered. He has made the big play every single time. Sutton's a dog. We're not going to spend too much time on this one, but Sutton's been awesome. Been a great weapon. And, you look on the other side, Jerry Jeudy, the touchdown drop. The drops that he has are horrible. That's my main reason why I'm not that high on Jeudy. He runs great routes. He's fast. He's got some height to him. But the dude cannot catch a football consistently to save his life. Not an easy catch, no. But as we were talking about earlier, if you have the ball in your hands, you better be able to catch the darn football. But I just want to put it out there that, to make sure everyone remembers that Courtland Sutton is a dog. Even before the time there when he was struggling with injuries and such, he was still a dog. He was still playing at such a high level, even before the injuries. He's always been a very good receiver when on the field and having at least half competent quarterback play. But I love to see Courtland Sutton doing good because I loved Courtland Sutton. Very good player. I feel like I'm missing something here. Okay, that's because I'm on the completely wrong thing. All right, last but not least, the Texans are a solid football team. They're not great. They definitely have their blemishes, but they are such a darn good football team, and there is such a huge game this weekend. Them and the Jags. I can't tell you the last time I've been so excited for an AFC South game that isn't actually a Colts game. And that's something I do want to bring up. Just because I'm a Colts fan doesn't mean I'm going to, ignore what the rest of the AFC South is doing. The Jags absolutely got the job done versus the Titans. They looked like the Jags they did before the Niners, before the bye week. We will have to see the Jags continue to find a way to be consistent because that's been their problem, inconsistencies. They've had, tough games here and there. They've been fortunate to come out winning, but nonetheless they're winning. But they have a piping hot football team running their tails. Texans are right there, and they're not going to back down. It's not going to be a cakewalk for the Jaguars. And Trevor Lawrence is going to have to put together another great performance like he did last year. What do you have? 2 passing and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's by far the best performance he has had so far this year. He has struggled at times this year. He's been inconsistent. But Trevor Lawrence has been a good quarterback, a very good quarterback. He's not great. He hasn't been great or awesome, but he's been very good. He's been more than enough. What the Jaguars need. Maybe not more than enough. He's been pretty good though. And he finally put a full game together. And the Titans suck when they're not at home though. I've noticed that, man. Every time the Titans go and travel, they are 100 times worse. But the Texans are a solid football team. I kind of got off topic there. The Texans are a good football team though. I would not be shocked if they win the AFC South. Would not at all. Now, I want to talk about the last game versus the Cardinals. As you see, they're on a 3-game winning streak. Beat Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Arizona. None of those teams are cakewalks. If you look at the Cardinals' record, you can be like, yeah, they're a cakewalk. They're not. They play hard every single week, and as you saw, they got 3 interceptions off of C.J. Stroud. What really impresses me, I think a really big sign of a really good football team is when they could win a game even when they're making a lot of mistakes, even when they're not playing their best. They still find a way to win. And that they did. They did that versus the Cardinals. I said going into that game, watch out, this game is a trap game. It has trap game written all over it. It's a young team coming off a huge win versus Joe Burrow. It's a young football team, and they, it just had trap game written all over it. And the Cardinals gave them a fight there at the end. I believe the Texans were just up 21-10 at one point. It was looking like the Texans were going to comfortably win it. But C.J. Stroud ended up throwing 3 picks, but C.J. Stroud was still able to do what he needed to do, still won a game, even when he hasn't looked his best. The Texans, man, they are a solid football team. They are sneaky. Coming into this year, I've said the Texans are my sneaky team of the year. That is a new thing from me. I'm gonna have a sneaky team of the year award, and I'm gonna do the prediction every single year. I actually really like that sneaky team of the year award. I think, and if there's an award for that, the Texans would be that, because they're sneaky. And like I said, they definitely have their flaws, they definitely have their blemishes, but like their defense, their defense is gonna allow a lot of yards. But their defense is also going to get a lot of turnovers. Jalen Petrie, a dog. All right. The defensive line, Will Anderson is a dog. He's great. And absolutely love what we're seeing from this Texans team. And they're young. They're only going to get better. D'Amico Ryans has instilled a culture, has instilled accountability, and something we've never really seen out of a Texans team. Even when they had Deshaun Watson, they weren't this good. Even when they had that really good defense with Watson, they weren't this good. Bold take. Hot take here. C.J. Stroud is better than Deshaun Watson when Watson was in Houston playing his best. I'm willing to say that right now. I'm willing to say that. But Texans are a solid football team. 3-game winning streak. They're coming for that crown. They're coming for the AFC South crown. Will they win it? I don't know. They're going to have to beat the Jaguars this week. And to be honest with you, I might end up picking the Jaguars in that game. I want to pick the Texans, and I love the story. But I think I'm probably going to end up picking the Jaguars. I don't know yet, so stay tuned for our weekly predictions. All right. Next up. I think that is actually it for our takeaways. Yes, because we talked about the Lions. Okay. All right. The segment everyone can't wait for every single week. One of my favorites. I just completely ruined it. Okay. You guys pretend that you didn't see that, okay? Pretend that you didn't see that. But, all right. Power rankings. Get ready. We're here. We're ready. I'm going to deliver. For 32, Carolina Panthers moved down one spot. You get killed by the Cowboys. The Giants won. You had another break from 32, but you're right back there. You're right back at 32, and unfortunately, that is where you belong right now. Doesn't help that the Giants won. Giants had an interesting game versus the Commanders. I was really shocked on how, if you go and look at that box score, you go and look at how that game went, you're like, how did the Giants only win by like 11 points? I can't get my graphic right. Okay, hold on. I think we're going to restart this segment because I kind of screwed it up. Hold on. Yeah, we're going to restart. Okay. All right, number 32, Carolina Panthers. I didn't really talk about them too much, so I want to really give them you guys know what I mean. All right, Panthers at 32. Panthers, man, they're not a good football team. They had a little break from 32 for a little while once again, but they're back there. The Giants won, they lost, so kind of felt right to move them around there a little bit. The Giants and the Panthers have been some of the worst teams in the NFL this year, as we know. But the Panthers, I will say, that one drive, I think it was like a 14-play, 70-some yard drive. That was the best drive I've ever seen out of Bryce Young. I saw greatness in that drive. Now, he has to learn that drive, look at it again, and just do what he did then. Because he looked like the Bryce Young that we thought he could look like. But ultimately, you lose. You get beat up pretty bad. You played a really good Cowboys team. And Bryce Young, like I've said, he doesn't really have too much around him. It's tough for him. So, Panthers, they're down here at 32. But 31, Giants getting a break from 32. They were at 32 for a week or 2 weeks. I don't remember. I don't know if it was 2 weeks or not. But you have a pretty good game versus the Commanders, I guess. They always find a way to beat the Commanders. I don't know what it is. Those two teams always go back and forth. But the Giants, they always find a way. I really thought the Commanders would win. Because, somehow their offense has been great. But, their turnover has really killed the Commanders and the Giants. I mean, they took advantage of it. But I would like to see more consistency from Saquon Barkley in this, in their running game. That our running game wasn't really there. I think they had like 0 rushing yards going into the third quarter, which is not very good, obviously. So, they are what they are. Not going to spend too much time down here on these bottom teams because they're bad. We know what they are. Majority of us. We're 30. New England Patriots, they stay put there. They run by. 29, the Cardinals. They, I'm blanking. Who did they play? It was the Texans. They put up a good fight. It was a close game. Towards the end there, they really made it close. They put up a good fight, but didn't really feel the need to move them just the way the board fell. It didn't feel necessary to move them anywhere. Then, as the season goes on, I look at power rankings as a puzzle, and at the beginning of the year, you're moving these pieces around a lot. They move around a lot. They move up a lot of spots, move down a lot of spots. The movement is a lot within the first couple of weeks of power rankings of the NFL. But as the season goes on, as you get more pieces of the puzzle in the right spots, you don't have, they don't move around as much. And I think that is the perfect analogy for power rankings. For mine, anyways. 28, Titans, moving down 2 spots after a really disappointing loss to the Jaguars. Get absolutely killed. Dominated. Couldn't do nothing. Will Levis, he had 2 touchdown day. Looked like he looked all right. But the Titans just play so much worse when they're away. And nonetheless, you still lose. You're moving down 2 spots. You got beat up pretty good. I couldn't really move the Cardinals up over them because they didn't win either. But, yeah, Titans moving down 2 spots. Them and the Packers basically switched there. 27, the Raiders. They put up a good fight versus the Dolphins. It feels like that Raiders defense has been playing better the last couple of weeks here. They've been doing a pretty good job, but the offense is pretty lackluster. But it feels like the new coach has a new kind of like juice into these guys. They're kind of wanting to go out there and play. I mean, Josh McDaniels was horrible, but the new coach, I don't really remember who he was for them, but hey, it seems like he's doing an all right job. He did a very good job versus the Dolphins offense, limiting them as much as you could. You The defense did their job. The offense didn't do really good, but, they kept it a close game versus one of the better teams in the NFL. Didn't really feel a need to move them. Number 26, Green Bay Packers moved up 2 spots. Really impressive win. If I felt like this was Jordan Love's best game of the season, one of his better games of the season. Now, the question becomes, can he tack these performances on? Can he keep them going? Can he find some consistency? Can he do it again? I think that's the big question. But he looked pretty good against the Chargers defense. Is pretty bad, one of the worst in the league, to be fair. Felt like, Jaden Reed had a really good game. Dontavian Wicks really did a good job this week. It feels like this Packers offense can continue to get better down the stretch. But right now, they're not really, they're still not great. We're going to see if they can tack on these performances. If they could, then awesome. Maybe they could make a run at this down the stretch of the season. But I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But it's a step in the right direction, beating the team I thought they wouldn't be. And it was one of those games I was really confident in too, but the Packers just couldn't. They just couldn't do it. They just couldn't. So, moving on. No, wrong thing. 25, Chicago Bears felt like they outplayed the Lions that entire game. Just a pathetic finish. You're up. I think they're up 10 points. What's 4 minutes left to go or something. So it was really pathetic to lose that game. But look, it feels like Justin Fields is hitting his stride a little bit. Can he keep it going? He was running the ball at such a high level. Really impressive to see how close they kept it. But didn't really feel the need to move them. They played a strong game. The end was really disappointing, but they put up a good fight versus one of the better teams in the NFL, a top 5 team for me. 24, Colts, they were on the bye. Don't really feel a need to move the Colts around. For 23, the New York Jets. Wow, they looked bad. They looked horrible. And it was really bad. We already knew how bad the offense was. The defense, it's a good defense, but the defense gets tired after a certain amount of time. They get sick and tired of having to, they can't do it all season long. It's a great defense, and that's what's keeping this team afloat. But the offense is horrible. Zach Wilson was finally benched, but still, not a good football team. They're clinging on for dear life with defense, and that's all they really had. Are they really going to be in the playoff race by week 15? I guess I've heard that. I heard that's when Aaron Rodgers is trying to come back, I guess. I don't think he should. I don't think he will. But I've been hearing some rumors that Aaron Rodgers is going to come back towards the end of the year if everything goes to plan. But right now, Jets are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're not looking very good. I know I don't have them ranked towards the bottom. That's because they have had some good wins here and there. They have beat some good teams, but it is what it is. 22, the Commanders moved down 1 spot. Very fortunate to only lose this game by 11 points. They turned the ball over 6 times. They did not look good. They looked absolutely horrible. They looked like one of the worst teams in football yesterday. They lost to one of the worst teams in football yesterday. So it makes sense, but very disappointing outing. Sam Howell is going to have to clean up the turnovers as the rest of the team needs to, because 3 fumbles and 3 interceptions, you're going to lose. There's no one you're going to beat in the NFL when you do that kind of stuff. And it's a very, very pathetic outing. Very pathetic. And I do love Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell was pretty good. He just really couldn't get anything going. And then, the defense on top of that, you let Tommy DeVito absolutely shred you. That defense is looking horrible. Tommy DeVito was 18 to 26, 246 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, that is bad. But props to Tommy DeVito. Props to him. Sam Howell didn't look good. 3 interceptions. I still really like Sam Howell. There's not really much he can do, to be fair. But this is such a weird game though, because the Commanders turned the ball over 6 times, but they had the football almost 10 minutes longer than the Giants had it. Yet they lost by 12 points. Pathetic outing. Crazy. I thought this was one of the craziest games. It's just you if you look at the box score, it's like it's wild. It's crazy because the Commanders outrushed the Giants by almost 100 yards. They outpassed them by 29 yards. They outgained them by more than 100, and they had the ball 10 minutes longer. But I mean, I guess that's what turning the ball over 3 times does to you. It's bad. Falcons moving up 2 spots. I mean, they're coming off the bye, but considering how bad the Jets and the Commanders looked, didn't really think they should be moved. They just no. It just felt like the right move to move them up 2 spots. Very fortunate to have the type of bye week they did. 2 teams in front of them looked absolutely horrible, so they really benefit from that. Number 20, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bad outing versus the Niners. Kind of what we expected. I mean, I expected the Buccaneers to struggle offensively. I expected the Niners to have a really good day passing the football. And I even thought, I looked at this game and I said, the Niners should have no problem passing the football. They may struggle to run a little bit. And they did because the Bucs have a really good run defense. It's tough to run against them. And passing, it kind of depends on your scheme. And their defense is very beatable, passing defense wise, because they're very aggressive. Todd Bowles is a very aggressive head coach, a very aggressive defensive guy. He wants to blitz. He wants to call man coverage. And against the Kyle Shanahan team with guys that can run routes like Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle could, and of course CMC coming on the backfield, it's going to be a tough day for the defense. And that man coverage is not going to last. And as you saw, Brock Purdy and that Niners offense killed it. They killed it, and they passed all over them all day long. Baker Mayfield looked all right, though. He looked all right. I mean, he did what he could. There's only so much you can do in that type of game when the opposition is just a lot better than your offense and what you have as a whole. 19, Saints on bye. Didn't feel a need to move them. Steelers moving down 3 spots. Just fired Matt Canada, so we'll see how they can do moving on from him. Can, having a new offensive coordinator, is Kenny Pickett going to be able to let it loose? Is he going to be able to do what he wants to do? Because Kenny Pickett is better out of structure. He's a better improviser than in structure. And just the runs up the middle, the runs up the middle to start every single game get old and they get easy to predict, as we've seen. But, hey, good game for the Steelers here. And it feels like my graphics are really messed up because, all right, yeah, they are messed up. But, yeah, they're still moving down 3 spots. It was a, wait, who the heck did they play? I'm blanking. I am blanking so bad right now. The Steelers played the Browns. You ran the ball well. But you really couldn't do anything outside of that. You're really questionable. Why aren't you giving Jalen Warren the ball more? I get it. Najee Harris is a first-round pick, but he's just not performing. And it does sting a little more to have to sit a first-round pick and to have to cut his snaps. And, they already have, but you have to cut into his snaps more. Jalen Warren has been awesome. Moving down 3 spots, very disappointing loss to the Browns. They were in it the entire game with DTR. He did what he had to do late in the game, and that was a difference. It was basically, who was going to outperform who, and DTR outperformed Kenny Pickett. For 17, the Seattle Seahawks, that was bad. Well, weren't they up by like 2 possessions, 2 scores? If not, they're up by a bit, by at least a score and 8, I think. And the Rams end up coming back like out of nowhere. And, Matthew Stafford kills it. They do a great job. And Drew Lock, when he went in there, he looked absolutely horrible. Really disappointing loss. And it feels like this Seahawks team, they started the year really well, but it feels they are starting to taper off. The offense hasn't been very good. And now on top of that, you're dealing with Geno Smith is dealing with the right elbow injury. It's like the MCL sprain or whatever you call it on your elbow. Very disappointing. Not good for Geno. Not good for the Hawks. They didn't really look good with him anyways, to be honest with you. But you're down here at number 17. You moved down quite a bit. Number 16, the Los Angeles Rams move up 3 spots, and they jump the Seahawks after beating them. Nice little comeback. Matthew Stafford looked all right. He did go down for a little bit. I thought I saw he went down, but it looked like he came back in right away. Thought we were maybe going to get some Carson Wentz action. But, yeah, the Rams move up 3 spots after an impressive comeback versus the Seahawks. Chargers, I have so many bones to pick with this team. I don't even want to for the sake of my mental health. I don't want to get into it too much, but here we go. I feel so bad for Justin Herbert. You look at the rest of this team. You look the beautiful throw he made down the stretch, and Quentin Johnson just dropped it. It's Brandon Staley has to go. Very horrible game. A game you should have won. Why didn't you run the ball more? You were running the ball so effectively, so great against the Packers, and you just stopped running the ball for whatever reason. It's pathetic. It's pathetic on what we're seeing from this Chargers team. From the roster, from the coaching staff, the staff in general. Give rid of Brandon Staley now. I mean, I know they don't really get rid of head coaches during the season, in the middle of the season, but come on, man. You have to change sometimes. He's horrible. He's horrible. Brandon Staley's horrible. He's supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach, but his defense isn't even good. It's pathetic. And, it's too late to throw a ton of money to the rest of the team to around the offense because Herbert's off of his rookie deal now. Moved down 3 spots. Very pathetic. Pathetic. We're 14, the Vikings. They moved down 1 spot after a tough loss to the Broncos. It is what it is. Dobbs struggled in this game a little bit. I noticed Dobbs. He threw quite a few passes in this game that could have been much worse. That could have had a much worse result. So, very fortunate in that aspect of it. But they just, both teams were hot, Broncos and the Vikings. It just so matters that the Broncos came out on top, and the Broncos looked like the better football team at times, and in the most important moments. That's why they won. But yeah, Vikings moving down 1 spot. Josh Dobbs, I feel like he holds the football too long, but it does feel like their defense has been playing pretty well for the most part. They're not great. They're going to have weeks where they struggle, and they struggled in a big moment. Russell Wilson's looking great, and that defense experienced that. So moving down 1 spot, but I will say I am very impressed with this coaching staff. I'm very impressed, and I think this team still has a bright future. I don't know who's going to be under quarterback next year. I would assume it would be Kirk Cousins, but having that injury, you really don't know. With the Broncos at number 13, moving up 3 spots, looking pretty good. Ran the football well. Russell Wilson is kind of entering himself in the MVP conversation. I've been really impressed with the Broncos. Obviously, they're on a 4-game winning streak, I think. 4. Because they beat the Packers, the Chiefs, the Bills, and now the Vikings. So they're hot, one of the hotter teams in the NFL, and they're going to continue to move up. And I already hear it. I already hear the comments coming at me. Why do you have the Bills over the Broncos? The Broncos just beat the Bills. Hold on. Hear me out. Listen to me. Like I've said many times in the past, I don't do my power rankings based off of head-to-head matchups. They matter a little bit, but not a lot. Just because, let's say this. Just because the Panthers beat the Bills, does that make them better? No. Now, the Broncos are much better than the Panthers, yes. If the, let's say, the Patriots beat the Bills, are they better? No. Just because the Broncos beat the Bills, it doesn't necessarily mean they're better. And I know that's a very contradicting statement. That's a very controversial statement to make. But the Bills, even though they lost that game, they played like the better team. They looked like the better team. They still just made a lot of stupid mistakes, which you could argue, it's part of the game. Yeah, I completely understand. But the Bills just killed the Jets, a team that has given everyone issues. The Eagles, the Chiefs, And the Bills experienced it the first week of the season. The Bills are better than the Broncos. They're a better football team. And as of right now, and that is why I'm putting them over the Broncos. I understand the Broncos beat them. I 100% get it. But that doesn't necessarily mean the Broncos are better than the Bills. This is just how the board fell. This is just how the puzzle went together. It's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Sometimes it's very, it's not straightforward. It's not just a head-to-head matchup that decides who's higher. Just not how it works. All right, next up. Cincinnati Bengals moving down 4 spots. Rough night, losing your franchise quarterback, your starting quarterback for the rest of the year. Definitely sucks. Jets kind of experienced that in the beginning of the year. Bengals experiencing it now. It's always disappointing. It's always so sad to see. It sucks. But I'm not moving them that far down because they lost one game to a football team that has killed everyone except for the Browns. They have kept it close with the Browns. The Browns actually beat the Ravens. But the Ravens beat up on them good. They ran the football well. They passed the football well. OBJ looked great, but they lost. They got beat pretty good. And even with Joe Burrow, they probably wouldn't do it. I mean, moving down 4 spots, I just don't. They're probably going to fall down a lot more. Losing Joe Burrow, they're probably going to continue to fall 100%. Without their franchise guy, they're not going to be as good as a lot of teams aren't. It's just the way that the NFL goes. Like the Jets, if they had Aaron Rodgers, they'd be so much better. The Browns are losing Deshaun. Kirk Cousins have looked good with Dobbs, but it's probably going to catch up with them eventually. And the Bengals are going to probably continue to lose. Or, they have really good defense. They have good weapons. So maybe whoever you plug in at quarterback there can make it work, but they're no Joe Burrow. We all know that. Though maybe the Bengals could still be a decent football team with whoever they play, A.J. McCarron or Jake Browning, whoever they decide to move forward with. Neither of them are Joe Burrow, obviously. But, I'm not just going to move them all the way down just because Joe Burrow went out and they lost one game without him, majority of the game. But they will probably continue to fall down the power rankings list. Number 10, Jacksonville Jaguars moving up 1 spot. Finally had that game. Finally beat up on a team that they should beat up on and have a strong performance. They did so. And the Titans, for whatever reason, they are so much worse when they are away. They're so much better at home. It's weird. But, hey, after coming off the bye, coming off of a game they got killed, it was nice to see the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley. It was nice to see them bounce back. Felt like they could have ran it with Travis Etienne more, but, the Titans did a pretty good stopping them. Did a pretty good job against the run. Not naming Trevor Lawrence because he ran for 2 touchdowns. But Lawrence looked pretty good in this game. But, can they string it together? Can they be consistent? Huge matchup this week between number 9 and 10. Texans and the Jaguars. Texans moving up 1 spot to 9. Like I said earlier in the live, like I talked about, when a team struggles, a sign of a really good football team, when they struggle the entire game, most of the game, but you still find a way to win after throwing 3 interceptions, turning the ball over a couple times, just not really looking like the Texans we've seen the last couple of weeks against the Bengals, against some of these other teams. It's a very good sign of a team to win that kind of a game. And big matchup between the Texans and the Jaguars. Big matchup. The rookie who has done more, to be honest, he has done more in a half a season than Lawrence has, and the amount of time he's been in the league. I hate to say it, but it's just kind of the truth. I think C.J. Stroud has shown more. I think he has played better than what we've ever seen from Lawrence. All right, number 8, Dolphins move down 2 spots. So it's a rare instance where a team moves down not just 1, but 2 spots after losing. but you struggled. The Raiders are a team that you should have been able to be a lot better than you had. I know the Raiders 5-5. They were 5-5. They were at 500. Good football team, not great. You give rid of Josh McDaniels, they looked better. Offense has looked better. The offense has been more smooth. The defense has been better the last couple of weeks, and especially really good outing versus the Dolphins. But the Dolphins, that's a team that you shouldn't have that much of an issue with. You should be able to put up 30 points against the Raiders. You should be able to win that game comfortably. That game was on comfortably close. And that's why they're moving down 2 spots. Like I said, it's rare to move a team down when they win. But there's, once you get into the top 10 here, you have to get very nitpicky with where you put teams. You have to nitpick them for everything. Especially once you get into the top 5, one little thing can move you down. It's just, that's how it is. If you want to be one of the best teams in the NFL, you have to play like it. And there's going to be nitpicking. That's just how you have to rank the best teams. Because they do everything so well. But you have to decide, what would you rather. You have to decide, is this okay? Is that okay? You have to decide, how much will this affect the team? How much will, how much does something so little affect where they position in power rankings? And that's why the Dolphins are moving down 2 spots. There are other teams around them like the Niners and the Cowboys they just dominated their opposition, which they didn't play good teams. They didn't play great teams, but the Dolphins didn't play a great team either. So that's why the Cowboys and the Niners moved up over them. Cowboys, very dominating performance over the Panthers, as they should. You should dominate the Panthers. You shouldn't have too much of an issue against them. Their offense, outside of Bryce Young showed some promise, had a really nice big drive there. I think that was the best we've ever seen Bryce Young. Other than that, and Adam Thielen, what does he really have? Not too much. He's thrown a lot of pick sixes so far this season. But Cowboys dominated their opposition. They move up a spot. Niners, they're moving up 3. Dominated the Buccaneers. Well, if you look at the score, it wasn't more than a 2-possession game. But the Niners, it felt like they dominated that game. I felt like it wasn't close all game long. Niners did a very good job. So, moving up 3 spots. Brock Purdy looked really good. And especially coming off of, a losing streak, they dominated the Jags. They're kind of looking like the Niners that we've seen in the beginning of the year, which is good to see. The Browns, they're staying put. I didn't feel the need to move them down yet. They did win. Tough game without their quarterback. And, like I said, you do have to nitpick up here. But I'm giving the Browns a little bit of the benefit of the doubt before they really probably might start plummeting. But even when Deshaun wasn't in there, they were winning. So, and I know it was a very close game. DTR outperformed Kenny Pickett, and that's why they won. It was whoever was going to make the bigger play. DTR did. And I want to see how DTR is going to do as the season goes on. Is he going to continue to get better? I'm excited for DTR. I think he can be a good quarterback. And we'll see as the season goes on. So, Browns are staying put. They still have one of the best defenses in the NFL. Passing-wise especially. Offensive-wise, that's kind of like that little chink in the armor. But they're staying put. Probably will move down if they cannot start winning more convincingly, especially, like I said, you have to be nitpicky up here in top 10. Number 4, Detroit Lions. It's a close game there. Close call. And like I said, you have to nitpick, but, that's another thing that, another thing that you have to include is when a team has a bad game, when a team struggles, when they're not playing great football that specific game, but they still find a way to win. Down 10 points with, less than 4 minutes left to go in the game. They find a way to win. And that's a sign of a really good football team. as I said for the Texans and with that Cardinals game. When a team struggles the majority of the game, the Bears outplayed them all game long. Except for when it mattered most, Jared Goff put those 3 interceptions behind him. He put that game behind him. The rest of this Lions team put it behind them. And that's why they're staying up here for now. But the Lions staying put at 4. The Chiefs moving down 1 spot. Bad game versus the Eagles. Very disappointing. I mean, Mahomes can only do so much, man. MVS dropping wide open passes hurts. Mahomes can't go out there and catch for them. Travis Kelce even dropped the pass in this game. Justin Watson dropped a pass late in that game, 4th and 25. I get it. 3 defenders around him. I'm not saying I could go out there and make that catch, but, in the NFL, it's a business is harsh, and that's the kind of catch you have to go out and make when your hands are on the ball. When you have that ball in your hands, there's no excuses on why you cannot come down with it. And you couldn't. When it's in your hands, even though if it's a really tough catch to make, if it's in your hands, you have to catch it. But the Chiefs, their defense looked pretty good. Second half, the Eagles caught on. They adjusted. They looked better. They started running the ball really well. But, it was a close game. So I'm only moving them down 1 spot. Because, the other teams around them didn't feel like they could move down too much more. Just, kind of the way the puzzle went together this week. We're 2. The Ravens moving up 1 spot. Really good game versus the Bengals. They dominated them, ran the ball really well. They've been beating up on good football teams all year long, so it's not like they don't have the resume. Just because Burrow went out, it's not why they won. They did a very good job. Good defense. Looking really good. Moving up 1 spot to 2. Number 1, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Even though the numbers don't say so, I feel like this is one of the more impressive games for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had a good game. Even though he had only threw for 150 yards and interception, I felt like he put all that behind him when it mattered most, and he had a really good drive there. The running game was absolutely helping him, and he did have a couple of throws in this game were very, very interesting, very questionable, like that interception to L'Jarius Sneed. Why didn't he lay it over? Why didn't he put it up top and let A.J. Brown go run to it a little bit maybe? That would have been a touchdown. Instead, it was an interception going another way. Would have been a big play, touchdown, changed the entire complexity of the game, but is what it is. Give your props to the defense because they pressured him that game. They pressured him that play, which forced interception. But without Dallas Goedert, the Eagles did pretty good on offense. I thought so anyways. They really picked it up in the second half. They shut out the Chiefs in the second half really good. No need to move them. So the Eagles number 1. And guys, that's all I got for you today. That's it for our Tuesday show, our daily show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, let me know what you think. Give your feedback. I'm going to be starting a Google form section at the end of every live because I want you guys to give your suggestions. They're probably going to be I'm not sure I think you could do them anonymous or not. You could do that if you want, but it's a way to get feedback, way for us to get better. But an hour and a half show. We would like to get them longer, but really, that's all we really had to talk about today. So, SHAQ Leonard being released by the Colts. Talked about the Monday Night Football game. Good game between the Chiefs and the Eagles. Had our 5 takeaways between the Lions, Steelers, Chargers, Broncos, Texans. And we had our power rankings, of course. So that's a wrap for our daily live show. I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Hope that you all enjoyed. We had 24 people in here today. That was awesome. I appreciate you all. 24 views. That's all for you guys today. Remember, if you enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, put that post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show. Signing off.